All right, let's continue on with Kapitel 17, chapter 17.2. And we have more meanings of modal verbs. First, let's look at the sentences from the end of the last unit, which contain modal verbs. But we have multiple verb situation happening in each of these sentences. So, wann werde ich mir die Haare schneiden lassen können? So, I have highlighted all the verbs here. What we have here is a future. Ich werde, that indicates that the future tense is happening. And then schneiden lassen is then to get my hair cut, to have it done. And then können is, of course, to be able to. So we have a future with to be able to and get the hair cut. So the whole thing comes out to, when will I be able to get my hair cut? Yeah. Okay. Ich habe dich schon von weitem kommen hören. And so whenever you have like infinitive plus sehen or hören at the end, that's like I saw you coming, or I heard you coming, right? So this one is I already heard you coming from far away. So I heard you coming, and then this habe is just putting it in the past tense, right? So ich habe kommen would be like the way that it goes into the past tense, or habe hören, yeah, and then the kommen is there to add the meaning of coming. So I already heard you coming from far away. Yeah. Ich habe dich noch nie Spargel essen sehen. So we have I've never seen you eat asparagus before, or maybe I never saw you eat asparagus before. So whenever you have the something and then sehen, two infinitives, essen sehen, saw you eat. So, or you could see how I have just eat, it could be eating as well. I've never seen you eating asparagus before, or I've never seen you eat asparagus before. Either way. Vor dem Semesterende werden wir die deutsche Sprache sehr schön übersetzen können. So we see this is werden means we're going to be in the future, and then double infinitive. So we have to translate and to be able to. So it's like before the end of the semester, we will be able to translate the German language very beautifully. Before the end of the semester, we will be able to translate the German language very beautifully. Yeah. Es ist wahr, dass wir niemals in das Zimmer haben reinkommen können. Wir hatten ja keinen Schlüssel. So it is true that we never were able to, haben and können together, were able to get into the room. We didn't have a key after all. So it's true that we were never able to get into the room. So it's like haben is conjugated for wir. We're not able to, like the haben and the können together make we're not able to. Instead of having a past participle, as you might expect here, you actually have the infinitive, because the reason that is the case is because we have a double infinitive. When there's another infinitive involved, like reinkommen, then of course, then the double infinitive sort of prevents the past participle from forming. And then because we're in a dependent clause here, that means that we have this word order at the end. We have the modal verb at the very end, then the main infinitive verb at the end, and then the helping verb haben goes right before the double infinitive. But if it were regular, if it followed the verb kicking rule, it would actually be at the end, but it's not. Okay, so now let's get into some more ways to use modal verbs. Modal verbs, as you probably have noticed, have different meanings where you say, I should do it, and I'm supposed to do it. The meanings are a little bit slippery sometimes, and that's just the thing about modal verbs. And attitudes, they show attitudes, right? And people's attitudes are hard to interpret sometimes. So that's just how it is with modal verbs, and a lot of it has to be left up to context. So you'll just learn situations in which the modal verb may mean something else than what we've already learned, and you'll be able to pick up on clues when that might be the case. So unlike other verbs, modal verbs express a mode or an attitude and may be used objectively to show the attitude of the subject towards the situation. That's kind of what we've been doing so far. But then they can also be used subjectively to indicate the attitude of the person speaking with regard to the content of the statement. So they can indicate the way you feel about a situation, like whether you believe it or not. You'll see some examples. So objective statement. These are the standard meanings we've already learned. When used objectively, the modal indicates the attitude of the subject towards a situation. So, der Schüler kann gut Deutsch sprechen. The pupil can speak German well. This is a fact of the pupil's ability. So, kann is just can. It maps onto the English can, and then gut as well, and then sprechen. So, kann is can or be able to, ability, right? You could also say the pupil is able to speak German well. It's the same thing. Die Schülerin muss einen Aufsatz schreiben. The pupil must write an essay. Or maybe the pupil has to write an essay, means basically the same thing. A fact of necessity. Der Lehrer will die Hausaufgaben nicht lesen. The teacher doesn't want to read the homework. This is a fact of the teacher's lack of desire. Yeah, so will means desire, in this case negative desire, but will is just does not want to. And then we have some different ways to use them with the subjective. So the modal indicates the attitude or opinion of the speaker regarding the statement. So, die Reise soll schön sein. The trip is supposed to be lovely. You don't know for sure until you've taken the trip. Yeah, so I had, not too long ago, we had some examples about, I was going to a movie theater and I said, der Film soll 120 Minuten dauern. The film is supposed to last 120 minutes. And so this is soll can mean either should or it is supposed to in different ways. Like if I say I'm supposed to work tomorrow, it's because I'm expected to work tomorrow. Someone is expecting me to. Versus the film is supposed to last 120 minutes means like I've heard of it. Someone told me that, and I don't want to. I can't say for sure, but someone told me, so it's supposed to. So in English, we also use is supposed to mean slightly different things. And luckily, soll can be used for both of those situations as well. So ich soll arbeiten is like I'm supposed to work, as in they're expecting me to. And also, die Reise soll schön sein. It's supposed to be lovely. Yeah. And then der Archäologe will einen neuen Palast entdeckt haben. This is quite different from English. This one is one that's important to learn because it could trip you up in a translation. So the archaeologist claims to have discovered a new palace. So will means wants to, right? If you translated this with the knowledge you had already of der Lehrer will die Hausaufgaben nicht lesen, doesn't want to, right? Will means want. And so if you translated this as want, it would be the archaeologist wants to have discovered a new palace. What do you mean he wants to have discovered a new palace? Like, I mean, yeah, he wants to, that's the goal of his trip or something, right? But that is not at all what's being said here. It is, he claims to have discovered. So it's sort of like his claim provides no immediate proof about the new palace. So it's like he wants that to be the case and he claims that. And so the person who's reporting it doesn't take any responsibility for whether that's the case or not. They don't necessarily think it's a lie, but they also don't want to say it's the truth. So it's just like the archaeologist wants it to be the case that he discovered a new palace. In that sense, it's kind of like wants, but you can't translate it as wants. You have to translate it as claims to, right? Yeah. Muss seine Gründe haben. Surely he must have his reasons. And in English, we use must in both of these ways as well. So if you say, muss schreiben, he has to write, he must write, he has to write. Muss schreiben. That's the way we've been learning muss so far. But then we have muss seine Gründe haben, and that is stating probability, like, well, he must have his reasons, right? It's probably he has reasons. He must have his reasons. So this is very different than obligation. Saying muss schreiben, he has to write, is an obligation. But this is stating more of a probability. He must have his reasons. But luckily, since we use it both ways in English as well, you can just translate it as must, like you would expect, and then it's fine. And then dürfen is normally permission, and then prohibition in the negative, right? So you're allowed to, not allowed to. Man darf in der Raucherabteilung rauchen. Of course, smoking is permitted in the smoking section. So is permitted. One is allowed to, or one may even, right? Hier darfst du nicht rauchen. Here you are not allowed to smoke. You're not allowed to smoke here. And so darfst nicht, not allowed to. Man darf diese Tatsache nicht außer Acht lassen. One must not disregard this fact, or one may not. So just a lack of permission, right? Prohibition. So must not also expresses like you're not allowed to, so you could translate it that way as well. And then in a subjective sense, dürfen may be used to negatively express disbelief or improbability. So this is a very common sentence. Das darf nicht wahr sein. So technically, it would be translated as that is not allowed to be true, right? And people say this all the time, especially when they're not happy about something, and they say, das darf nicht wahr sein, and the reaction is like, in my head, I'm not allowing that to be true, right? So it's like, that can't be true, das darf nicht wahr sein. Yeah, so it's just disbelief or improbability, and also like anger a lot of times. Yeah, das darf nicht wahr sein, so that can't be true. It's really like emphasis, yeah. But you don't necessarily have to say allowed. Like if you say that's not allowed to be true, it's not really the best translation, even though it involves darf, yeah, because it's not really about permission. It's not like I'm telling it that it's not allowed to be true. It's just it's this expressing this disbelief, right? Okay, so können, objectively, können is for an ability, a possibility, or permission, just like in English. Als Kind habe ich sehr gut Klavier spielen können. As a child, I was able to play the piano very well. You could also say, als Kind konnte ich sehr gut Klavier spielen, which would be easier than this perfect form. But either way, so I was able to play. And I could play. This is where in English we would be able to do both. As a child, I could play the piano very well, or I was able to. Mit dem Zug kann man schnell reisen, aber mit einem Flugzeug kann man noch schneller reisen. So with the train, you can travel fast, and it says like it's possible to travel fast by train, but which is a fine translation. But if we want to do even more literal, we could say one can travel fast on the train. And so it's just can or is possible, it's the same. Aber mit einem Flugzeug kann man noch schneller reisen. But with an airplane, one can travel even faster. So the second clause, they translate with can for some reason, but it expresses the same idea. Kann, in both of them, it's possible, or one can. In the right context, it can be translated as it's possible. And then, kann ich schwimmen gehen? Yeah, and so just like in English, may I go swimming? So this is always the joke, right? You ask your second grade teacher, can I go to the bathroom? And the teacher says, I don't know, can you? And you're just like, we can use can both ways in English. Can be ability or permission in English, but some people don't think that. And they just think it means only ability. But I think it means ability or permission. And in German, it definitely can mean ability or permission. So kann ich schwimmen gehen can be translated either as can I go swimming or may I go swimming. Okay, subjectively, können indicates a fairly certain assumption. So morgen kann es regnen. This is quite different from how we use it in English. So I sense it's likely to rain tomorrow. You can say it can rain tomorrow. It's not, I don't know if an English speaker would say that. It can rain tomorrow. They would say it could rain tomorrow, and that's more of the subjunctive, which we haven't done the German subjunctive yet, but that's what that would be in English, the conditional. It could rain tomorrow. And so morgen kann es regnen. So in German, you can actually just say kann to indicate that sort of thing. It's likely to rain tomorrow. It's more than just could, though. It could rain tomorrow is like a smaller possibility, but then morgen kann es regnen is like a larger possibility. Fairly certain assumption, yeah. Er kann gut gespielt haben. I haven't seen him, but I assume he was a good player. Yeah, he can have played well. Yeah, that's quite different from English. Yeah, so fairly certain assumption. Okay, mögen is quite a tricky one. So the first meaning you learn of mögen is just like you like it. I like noun. Ich mag Lampe. I like lamp, right? Ich mag Kuchen. I like cake. And so we have one here. Die Schüler mögen ihren Lehrer. the pupils like their teacher. It's just noun likes noun. So there's no other verb involved. It doesn't even seem like a modal verb because there's no other infinitive involved. It's just the verb. It seems just like a regular verb in this when you use it this way, right? Das Kind mag die Hausaufgaben nicht machen. And in rare cases, you can actually put another infinitive there, but this is not like the normal construction. And I tell people to avoid it in the beginning because what happens is it gets confused with this subjective kind. So the child doesn't like to do the homework. A clearer way to say this would be, das Kind macht nicht gern die Hausaufgaben. So the child, with the gern construction, it makes it clearer what's going on, because what happens is mögen subjectively means something like may, meaning possibility, question of uncertainty in English. So das mag stimmen means that may be true. So you can see how mag looks almost just like may. They share an etymological ancestor. So mag is really quite a lot like may in a lot of cases. And so when you say, das Kind mag die Hausaufgaben nicht machen, it sounds a little bit like the child may or may not do the homework, may not do the homework. It sounds like a possibility or uncertainty. And so that's why the gern construction is preferred. So I think it's only use mögen when you just want to say, noun likes noun, if you mean the subjective sense. But then in the subjective sense, then you see this extra verb happening. The extra verb makes it sound like it's subjective. So das mag stimmen. Stimmen means to be true. It's another verb. So that may be true. And then der Flug mag 3 von 4 Stunden dauern. The flight could last 3 to 4 hours. It may last. You could also say may. The flight may last 3 to 4 hours. And when we say this kind of may in English, we're not talking about permission. We're talking about uncertainty. And then, wo mag mein Freund jetzt sein? Where on earth is my friend now? And so is, you can say is, but you might also say, where may he be? Maybe it sounds a little archaic, but that's the same idea. Where may he be? As in, where is he? Where on earth? They put on earth into the sentence to make it sound less certain, right? Yeah. So where may he be is the parallel translation. And then you can say, just adding in something that means uncertainty. Yeah. Okay, so that's mag. And then müssen is, in the normal sense, subjective sense, it means compulsion, obligation, necessity. So im Alter von 6 Jahren müssen alle Kinder zur Schule gehen. At the age of 6, all children must go to school. So müssen, must. That's the sort of default meaning. Müssen, must. Also have to or had to, right? Ich habe meinen Vater im Krankenhaus besuchen müssen. So here we are in the perfect. So the haben plus the double infinitive puts this in the perfect. So I had to visit my father in the hospital. When you say must, you can't put it in the past tense in English. So you have to switch over to the had to. And then you could also take müssen, put it into the simple past and say, ich musste meinen Vater im Krankenhaus besuchen. It would be the same type of past tense situation. And then man muss Geld haben. You have to have money. Yeah, so to go somewhere, whatever it is, man muss Geld haben. You have to have money. And then those are that's how we've been using müssen so far. But then there is this other meaning with subjectively, müssen indicates a form of conviction based on evidence or other grounds. So, mein Freund hat einen neuen Mercedes gekauft. Muss sehr viel Geld haben. So it's a slightly different idea. It's not obligation. It's more of this deducing something from the situation, right? So my friend has bought a new Mercedes and he must have a lot of money. So it's saying like, oh, the evidence or conviction based on some sort of conjecture. So this must be the case. And in English we say that as well. So it's just different ways of using must. And then sollen indicates usually an order, moral duty, commandment. Der Angeklagte soll seinen Namen laut und klar angeben. The accused should state his name clearly, so it's an implied command. Älteren Leuten gegenüber soll man immer höflich sein. You should always be polite to your elders. So that's the same. Should is supposed to. And then du sollst nicht stehlen. Thou shalt not steal. Shalt. Yeah. So of course in in older versions of English, shalt was a thing. Shall and shalt for conjugated for thou. Yeah. Okay, but then to be supposed to or said to. So a lot of times in English you can interchangeably say should and supposed to, and sometimes there's not much difference in meaning. So, but then we have these ones that are slightly different. Diese Aufgabe soll sehr schwer sein. This lesson is said to be very difficult, or is supposed to. So we can say is supposed to mean you're expected to, obligation, but also you can say is supposed to as in I've heard of that, right? So diese Aufgabe soll sehr schwer sein. This lesson is said to be very difficult, or is supposed to, because of what I've heard, be very difficult. Or der Saurier soll ein Schrecken gewesen sein. The dinosaurier is also a word, but this is like the short version. The dinosaur was supposedly a terror. So you can say soll gewesen sein. It's like should have been, or is supposed to have been. So they just simplified that is supposed to have been to was supposedly. So that works as well. And then wollen has its own meanings as well. So usually we get a wish or intention with wollen. Wir haben die neue Erfindung sehen wollen. We wanted to see the new invention. You could also make it simpler and say, wir wollten die neue Erfindung sehen. So that's wollen, wanted. And then wir wollten, here's that simple past I was just saying. Wir wollten eben anfangen. We were just about to begin. So technically it says we wanted to begin just now. And it has a similar meaning. We were just about to begin. We wanted to begin just now. But it's slightly different. Even like just now, it sort of makes it sound like we were just about to. That was our intention. So instead of just a regular wish or desire, it's an intention. We were just about to. But not a huge difference in meaning there. But then subjectively, wollen means claim to. So this is the one that is very different from English we were talking about. Die Russen wollen Coca-Cola erfunden haben. The Russians claim to have invented Coca-Cola. So it's, if you didn't know that it could mean this, you would translate it as the Russians want to have invented Coca-Cola, right? Which is, it's a different idea than they claim to have invented Coca-Cola. Yeah. Okay, so now we have the end of chapter exercises for Kapitel 17, and then after that you can go to the videos for Kapitel 18, and we will see each other on Zoom as usual. So viel Glück und viel Spaß, lots of luck and lots of fun with these exercises, und auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss, mach's gut.